because most people think of change management as communications. I thought I'd go ahead and throw some things in here about communication. It goes way beyond communications. But communications is the most visible arm of change management, because that's how you do your job. You communicate through, that's how you achieve change, is through some form of communication. So if you're talking to somebody about this, there's a sender-receiver dynamic that's extremely important in communications, right? So there's things that impact that is your own bias, your own talents, and then there's cultural elements to the sender-receiver dynamics, right? So most employees in surveys will tell you, I want to hear work-related stuff that's impacting my job from my supervisor, right? I don't want somebody at corporate who I don't even know telling me how my job is going to change. I want my supervisor to tell me how my job is going to change. That also is another reason to have that change network, right? Because you've got to kind of build a coalition and funnel that back through the leadership so that the supervisors and the supervisors of supervisors and all that are aligned with where this is going, so that they can get down to the line worker and say, this is how your role, responsibility, and expectations are going to change in the new normal, and we're all aligned on that, right? Because that's the message they want to hear from their supervisor. If I circumvent the supervisor and come to you and say, your new job is to do whatever, you know that based on you working for him, that's not going to fly, right? So I got to go start with him and let him deliver that message. I believe the burden is on the sender to simplify the message and not require the receiver to do it both.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
I just had a question for you. We were talking about this is very forward thinking, talking about the change, talking about the ramifications of the change. How much do you feel the communication plan needs to address the impact of not making a change? To help people sort of move from that stagnant.
Right. I think that's important, right? Because everybody has options, right? And I do believe that that's part of one of the things I did say is that people want to hear about vision from the C-level suite, right? And so vision is part of that message, I think. We have options to stay the same or to change. And if we stay the same, we don't see this ending well, right? And so we're going to change because we want to create a better future for the company and for you as an employee. I think that's an extremely important part of the messaging, because the employees want to hear that holistic thinking. They want to hear this holistic idea of that you're doing something that's a good choice for me, right? Burden on the sender to not use complicated terminology, not require them, I'm going to get to targeted, right? But let me connect those dots. If I send a message to you that applies only to you, it's targeted, it's direct, and there's no reason I need to encode it with a lot of stuff. If I need to send two different messages and I send one message to both of you, now you've got to start figuring out what applies to me and what applies to him, and that's not a good strategy. From a certain perspective, someone might think, well, it's easier. Let's just bundle it all up and send it all at one time. But you put then on the receiver the burden of making a correct interpretation of a garbled and jumbled message. And you can't guarantee they're going to make the correct interpretation. It's better to send targeted communications to the right audience and use common words, common meaning, take out the jargon, take out the gimmicky stuff, right? Because this is important stuff for them, and people don't want it to feel gimmicky, right? They want it to be really clear, crisp communication. And that's where I'm going to give you this acronym of PC-NEW. PC-NEW, that if you're going to evaluate a specific communication, the P stands for professional. The default approach should be professional, right? Now, some people may go, let's go whimsy, let's go whimsical, let's go humor, let's be sarcastic, let's do something that might, I'm telling you, that's risky, right? That doesn't always translate. It also doesn't translate across cultures if you're an international company. Professional is the safe way to go, right? The C stands for candid. Be direct. Don't bury the lead. Don't make it overly complicated. Be direct in what you're trying to tell them, right? And why you're trying to tell them and what the issues are. Be candid. The N Stands for new, but that's, you know, I know that this is new, but the N is new, right? It should be new information. You have to think about how much noise am I creating, right? If I'm just communicating to communicate, not adding value, right? It needs to be something new that they're hearing ideally for the first time. Or if you're reinforcing an old message, tell them that, hey, I'm reinforcing something. Just want you to know something I told you before, right? Be clear about that. The E is engaging. Now, not gimmicky, but engaging, right? A call to action. We need you to do something. We need a response from you. We need you to engage and not just simply read and throw this away, but do something. And so it should be about some call to action or some expectation, something that engages with them. And W is never forget about the living. What's in it for them, right? Or when they read it, what's in it for me, right? So PC New is an easy way to evaluate a communication. Does it meet those needs? It may be ready to launch, right? But again, targeted, early and often is important. Many times in surveys, people say, I didn't hear early enough about this. I didn't hear often enough about this, right? That's a balance. It's a bit of a dance, right? Early and often is going to mean something different to everybody in this room, but you need to make some decisions about that, right? Early and often. And then you need to use multiple media types. Don't assume everybody reads your email. You might need to use posters. You might need to use table tents. You might need to use digital signage. You might need to do video. You might need to create videos of executive speaking, right? Think in terms of that, how easy that might be for them to consume. And then it needs to be long enough to cover the topic, but short enough to keep their interest. Don't create long communications, right? To the point, be brief, get in, get out from your communication.